So what's needed to do this job is the AC compressor belt, and then the alternator and fan belts, making up 3 belts total as you see in your engine compartment. Other than that, I have some shims for both of the pulleys on the fan and the alternator. I have replaced 5mm bolts. It's just to replace those each time due to the fact that they're aluminum and they can round out, and it makes it challenging to remove and replace on subsequent repairs. Other than that, you need to have specifically the 24mm wrench to remove the outer bolt, and then you'll also need the alternator wrench, making sure that you have the 12-prong design so that way it'll avoid any damage or stripping out of that bolt. In addition, you'll need to have a 10mm and a 13mm socket for getting the various bolts in the engine compartment loosened. So how we're going to start doing this is we're going to loosen the 4 bolts on top of the AC compressor, and then from there we're going to loosen the tensioning bolt on the back end of the AC compressor, which I will shine a flashlight on here. There you can see it a lot better. And prior to removing the actual AC compressor, you want to make sure that you loosen this bolt to free the lines, and then undo this clamp up here. What that allows us to do is to first and foremost remove the AC pulley. Obviously it connects down there through the drive off the engine, and then you can see my bad belt for the fan, and then there's the alternator belt. I'm going to replace all 3. So here I've replaced the clamp, which just comes off by unclipping either side, and then the 10mm bolt. And when you look around to the AC line, so it's now disconnected there and here. Okay, so there's actually 5 bolts total, 13mm. So I removed that back one so that this can pivot up and away from the main part of the engine. Left these 2 on here, removed these 2, being careful to get the bottom pieces. So those are them right there, and then tilted the AC toward me like so, so as to get that belt off, and then from there just pivoted it and onto it, snuck it through that crevice there. Obviously have a little bit of cleaning up that I need to do in here from the broken belt. All right, so there you can see the alternator wrench and the 24mm just opposing each other to get that outer pulley nut off. All right, so now I've gotten to the inner bit with the alternator belt, yeah, so that's sitting inside there, and got the outer shims. I just have them stacked in reverse order. So of note, when you remove the 3 5mm hex bolts or sockets, you want to give a good oomph on them off the go. So you want to have a larger wrench and maybe try some penetrating fluid in order to remove those. And like I said, those are only a 1-use bolt. And then they may be holding in some spare shims for the outer pulley. So just look out for those. So just take another look to make sure there aren't any other random shards or whatnot. All right, so old versus new from the inside out with the fan, the alternator, and then the AC compressor. There you just put everything back together, assemble, getting the fan and the alternator pulleys, or alternator belts put on the pulleys, and then you just tighten down the 3 hex bolts. Make sure you don't overdo it so that they're able to be removed, especially with a roadside repair. And then that outer bolt's supposed to be torqued to 50 Newton meters. Kind of a tough one to torque just because you have to counter it with the alternator drive shaft. Okay, so other than that, when you go to start it, you want to start it, make sure everything is aligned properly. On a cold engine, you want to make sure that the tension on each of the belts is about 23 to 35 scale increments. And then you want to drive the car and bring it back and make sure it's up to 28 to 40 scale increments. In order to adjust the tension on the belt, you add and replace the shims as I showed when we started the video.